Providence Councilwoman Kat Kerwin, this Abolish the Police Democrat, also believes wielding sex toys somehow demonstrates the absurdity of the Second Amendment, or something. Her moronic past was warning us of her radical future, and now this sheer genius is here to stay. Listen to this, and then listen to the full episode by clicking on the links somewhere around this video. You'll find them. Here we go. Now, if you go back several years to Kerwin's days of college activism, we learned that she organized a protest called Cox Not Glocks. Cox Not Glocks, meaning penises, not guns. But that doesn't rhyme, so, you go with Cox Not Glocks if you're an astute left-wing activist on campus. Here's the report. The conservative student group Young Americans for Freedom invited pro-gun activist, journalist, and author Katie Pavlich, from Fox News, Pavlich, to speak at UW's Psychology Building Tuesday night. Young Americans for Freedom chair Abby Strew says the group invited her to bring an often not heard viewpoint to campus. Pavlich will discuss firearms and self-defense at the event titled Trigger Warning, the Second Amendment and Your Self-Defense. It's really important that we discuss this and we have narratives flowing so that a bunch of different ideas can be determined and people can make up their own minds, Strew said. But some students, here it comes, are protesting against her ideology. The protest is titled, quote, Cox Not Glocks, and the protest was organized by UW student Kat Kerwin. She says at the protest they will be wielding sex toys. Kerwin says it's ridiculous that people find sex toys on campus offensive, but not the possibility of allowing guns on campus. So it's like true university level genius here. Quote, we're seeing a lot more speakers be invited to campus that are hate speakers in some respect and just promoting ideologies that are not necessarily there to start an intellectual debate, but more to divide campus, Kerwin said. So there's not enough time to get into this, although I'm dying to. What am I trying to demonstrate, though, before we get into what happened in Fortnite? She's a progressive. She's a creature of the left. And she's in her young 20s, and if you're going to use that, and I think some people do, as a reason to dismiss her antics, you'd be foolish to do that. Because here's the thing. Kerwin seems to be a product of the modern university. She is a radical, a progressive democratic radical, not an extremist, although she's probably that too, but a radical. And the difference is important. Extremism, and not everyone uses the term appropriately all the time. It doesn't necessarily impart a positive characterization, obviously, when you call someone an extremist. It's usually meant to insult someone or define them in a negative way by painting them dangerously outside the mainstream. So libertarians might be considered extreme, fine. But there's nothing radical about them. I've been called an extremist. I lean hard right, sort of libertarian on many fronts. So you won't see me characterized as being in the middle, the precious middle of the political spectrum. Fine. We can talk about what the middle means some other time. But radical? No. When we say radical, there's a connection to tactics and ethics here. What they're willing to do. A radical wants to burn it down. And usually without any concern for what to replace it with. Abolish the police. And how quickly that caught on within the Democratic ranks is probably the most recent and one of the best examples here. And I know there's been a lot of attempts at rationalizing and explaining away this new leftist slogan, but that's all that is. It's a bunch of Democrats covering up for their radical base. We're also witnessing sort of that second wave of radicalism now, like the Ilhan Omars and the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez types. Kerwin is this type. These are the ones who turn around one day and slaughter their revolutionary predecessors. They're the spoiled offspring, in a sense. You think about AOC bringing those young activists to the door of Nancy Pelosi's office. Banging on her door, and they're going to harass the leader of their own party. Or the left-wing activists taunting her at their own Democratic rallies over immigration policy. Or these liberal deans and professors being run off campus by current undergrads, like 19-year-olds screaming at them. These liberal deans and professors. Why is this happening? Because the second wave is here to cash the check. It's not unlike what Martin Luther King once said regarding the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Some of you might be familiar with this, that those documents laid out certain values and ideas. And MLK spoke in Washington at one point and said this. Hold on. I did get it prepared. Printed it out. Martin Luther King, we have come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. It's the same thing with the Democrats' second wave here. These people were told their entire lives by Democrats that everyone's racist, that the other side is racist. The nation was founded on genocide and that the earth is melting. Well, do you believe it's melting or not? Well, here's the Green New Deal. Sign it. Do you believe in institutional racism or not? Then abolish the police. What are you waiting for? These are people told over and over and over again that they are special little elites because, they got like a liberal arts degree. And that guy's just a plumber. And your parents and your grandmother, sweet as they are, and you love them, they just don't know. I mean, they go to church. How smart could they be? I'm not kidding. That's the outlook of the modern American radical right now. And aging Democrats never anticipated that one day they'd show up to cash in. And the most important thing to remember about the radical is that he's a liar. And there are outright lies, and then there's more sophisticated forms of deception. And it's no surprise that Kerwin wants the press not to film her friends as they protest/riot on the streets of Providence. Or that she was a proponent of the anti-free speech activism on her former campus. Shutting down academic debate is a form of dishonesty. It's totalitarian dishonesty. And you only find that on the left. And you find it often with their hardcore command of political correctness. But agitation is another form of deception, where someone, in fact, craves conflict, actually seeks to create it. So he can create another video out of context, post to Twitter in order to mobilize the masses. And we saw this last year at the Central Falls prison complex with Aaron Regenberg, who wanted all the illegal alien prisoners released. Remember this? He was comparing the officers, like the prison guards, to Nazis at Auschwitz. One night, he and the protesters, they barricade the road and they refused to let traffic go by into the parking lot because they wanted to manufacture an incident. And they got what they wanted. They got one guard to finally lose his cool, and that's all it took for Regenberg to go on social media and TV with footage intended to demonstrate how cruel and evil the prison guards were. If they'll assault us outside, imagine what they're doing to the brown people inside the prison. I kid you not, that's what they said. I mean, talk about propaganda 101. Then, Regenberg goes on national television with a pouty face and says, "Oh, we're just like this harmless Jewish community singing our ancient songs when the Nazi assaulted us. Don't you see how cruel these people are?" And we could do a whole show on that garbage. Maybe we will. That's actually a good one, because that's illuminating as well. That's infuriating if you're someone who pays close attention, because you feel icky like as depraved as they are for associating with the petty lies they tell and trying to unpackage it all for everybody. But you want to explain it to people what the truth really is. And these are professional liars we're talking about. So you got to keep up with them.